Hello and welcome to the Musician's Map podcast. I'm Kane Power. If you've checked out the ebook or the YouTube channel or pretty much anything else associated with Musician's Map, you'll hear me going on and on about the musician's journey. It's the path you take from picking up an instrument and dreaming to achieving those dreams. We're all at different stages on our journey. We all have a different destination in mind, and it can be confusing just trying to determine either of those things. But one thing I'm coming to realize is that by sharing the details of our personal journeys, successes and failures, we can help others progress on theirs. So I want to start putting these things into context and hearing about the personal musical journeys of experienced, successful musicians, how they started, how they got where they are, and where their journey will take them next. This week, I'm talking to Emma Cameron. Emma is the guitarist and singer for Christchurch band Decades. Decades have experienced a rise to fame in the past couple of years, becoming involved with Tom Larkin's home surgery management company, enjoying mainstream radio play and Spotify attention, and releasing an album with Warner Music New Zealand. Over Skype, Emma shares how she started playing music and how she broke out of years of obscurity. We discuss working with a management company and releasing an album with a major record label. Over to Emma.
I live in Christchurch and I grew up and I was born in Christchurch. I've actually been here my whole life, much to the anger of our current management. They want me out of here, but I like it here, so I've always stayed here. I think I got into music from my dad. My dad doesn't play any instruments or anything like that, but he always played a lot of music in the house and really like harmonically rich music. Like his favorite band was Steely Dan, so it was pretty much we only heard Steely Dan all the time. And then he, the Eagles and Chicago and Bread and the Carpenters and all, Mamas and Papas and all. Like they were playing a lot in our house. My parents love music; they just don't play any instruments. So I think from a young age, like really little, that was probably starting to be ingrained in my brain. So I started guitar when I was 8, and I always wanted an electric guitar. My parents said they wouldn't get me one until I could prove to them that I took guitar seriously. And I think they gave that kind of like a time frame of 5 years or something, 6 years. I got my first electric guitar when I was 15, maybe 14. It was a Fender Stratocaster, actually, like a really nice one, but it was secondhand. So my parents got it for me. I think it was like $500 or something like that. And the strings were all rusty. Like, yeah, he had not done anything to it for like 10 years. And me and my parents didn't know how to change guitar strings and didn't know they needed to be changed. So they actually like stayed these rusty shit strings. So probably another 2 years after that, until maybe 1 year after that, when I actually joined my first proper band, and someone went, "Fuck, you need to change your guitar strings." I'm like, "What, do I?" And then I would be like, how do you change strings on this thing? I have no idea. Yeah, so that's what I had. And I had like a little Marshall practice amp that I actually still have. It's in my garage. I use it when I'm rehearsing at home because it's quiet and it doesn't disturb my flatmates as much.
Yeah. So
it sounds like shit, but it doesn't matter.
What about that first band? What was that?
Well, essentially the band that I'm in now, actually. Yeah, like in a like weird, like going back in time, metamorphosizing through time. The first band, we were called What Action, and we were a punk pop band or pop punk band. There was 3 guitarists. I was one of them. The drummer was our drummer that we have now, Dan. He's never left. Me and him have like been stalwart right from the start. And a bass player called Pam. So there was another girl in the band with me at that stage, which was cool. And one of the other guitarists is John O'Loty, and he ended up sticking with us, and we formed Ashai. He actually became our synth player. So that was around 2006 we decided to become Ashai. We kicked out that third guitarist, and we called up Liam, who's our guitarist and songwriter now, because he used to play in a punk band with our synth player Jono and our drummer Dan, like when they were in high school, and we were looking for a songwriter, and they're like, "Well, Liam writes songs, let's just see if he wants to do it." And then that's when Ashai started, so that was 2006. So What Action was probably 2004 to 2006.
So they're kind of the same band, but they just metamorphosized into into a different group
Yeah.
with a different name?
Yeah, like for me, I feel like I've always only ever been in one band.
Okay.
But it's just, changed over the last like 12 years or something.
Yeah. So when did you start to sing?
That was in primary school, like doing choir and stuff at school, and noticing that I could actually sing not that bad. I started taking it a lot more seriously when I was probably an early teenager, and I started getting into a lot more, I would call it rock music. Probably not anyone older than me would, but like I loved like Yellow Card and The Used and My Chemical Romance and Taking Back Sunday and Paramore. And I wanted to sing more in the band that we'd got together, so I just started like basically singing along to all those bands in my room, because they had, like, even as dude singers, they had way higher range than me. And I also didn't know how they did this like cool kind of like yelly screamy singing thing. Like I wanted to learn how to do that, so I just started copying them basically, and that's when I started being like, I want to be like the singer. And when Liam joined the band and we became Ashai, we were dual vocals for quite a long time, so we would both sing, kind of like Versa Emerge, but not as like synthy, electro poppy. But then we made a decision before we started releasing singles that we'd recorded like with a professional budget and stuff, that I was going to take over as the lead singer just because I was better at it than Liam. And he wouldn't be bothered doing it anymore. Even though a lot of them were his songs, so I guess that's why he was singing them in the first place. But
did you ever do any lessons for singing?
No, where I wanted to, because obviously I want to like look after it and know what's the best way to do it. But the price point always puts me off. I'm like, it's like, it sounds ridiculous, but it's like going to see a therapist or a counselor. You're like, I know I need it and I know it will help me, but fuck, that shit's expensive. I can't afford like $120 for an hour, like every week for God knows how long that I'll need it for. Like, so I just started, looking up vocal coaches on YouTube and stuff and finding ones that I liked and ones that worked for me, and kind of hoped for the best that I wasn't doing bad technique.
Yeah. Let's go on from there and talk about Ashai. What did you guys sort of do once you'd sort of formed that band and it was Ashai and you got a new name, and how did you kind of create your direction, and what were your goals?
So long ago, I can like hard, because like I think back now that I would have been like 15 or 16 when we started doing Ashai, and I wasn't like, these days I'm like the main driving force behind the band, but back then I was just this girl in high school and all the other guys in my band were like 20 or 21. So Jono was actually kind of managing the band at that point. God, I can barely even remember where we practiced or anything, but it was still, we were practicing like once a week, maybe once a fortnight. Liam was still writing the songs. I remember we were like, because Jono was playing the synth, but it wasn't really working. And most of us didn't really like it, but we kind of stuck with it anyway until Jono was like, I don't want to play synth anymore. I'm going to move to Auckland. I'm leaving the band. We're like, okay, good. And then that became the Ashai that you kind of, I don't know if there's any videos on YouTube anymore, but that was like the four of us after that. And that's probably when we started solidifying our vision for ourselves a lot more, and figuring out what kind of band we wanted to be, and writing songs with more of a focus on what kind of style we wanted. And when I say we, I mean like, I know that we all wanted to do like pop rock music, but I also know that Liam was like basically just trying to write Paramore songs, which was, I think, definitely to our detriment at the time. But we kind of went with it because they're still good songs. And that was just kind of the style of music we were listening to anyway. But I think we ended up kind of getting stuck in that hole for like 5 or 6 years where we couldn't get out of that hole. But yeah, we released a few singles that we recorded up at Studio 203 with Andrew Buckton. So that would have been around 2009 to 2011. And then after that, they went all right. They didn't get picked up by radio or anything like that. They had some TV play and all that kind of stuff. Then after that, we didn't really know what to do, but I kind of wanted to do an album, and that's when we needed to start figuring out where the heck do we get money from to do this, like, properly, like a proper project? And then the pressure's on more of being like, we got to write, like, the best songs possible if we're going to, like, release a body of work. And that's probably, like, where I started coming in from more of a, like, heavy-duty, self-managing the band a lot more. I'd probably, by the time the EP, because it ended up being an EP, which came out in 2014 maybe, but I was also I'd finished my degree in graphic design and so started to do a lot more of, like, our branding and stuff as well around that time.
Yeah.
So it all started to become more of, like, a cohesive thing that was like a project that was moving forward, you know, not just like dripping random songs out and there's like one photo of the band from like 6 years ago that's your profile picture and all that kind of stuff. So it feels like really hazy times, because I guess that's around the time that social media started picking up a lot more, and there was the transition from MySpace to Facebook, and like we had to navigate all of that. It's so much easier now, I feel.
Yeah.
I feel like there's more of like a roadmap for the musician's map. I feel like there is more of like a roadmap for musicians to know what to do these days.
Yeah.
So I feel like I was flailing back then, but now it's kind of like, but maybe that just comes from experience, I don't know. But I feel like the market is a lot more solid, and everyone, like, the digital age is kind of, it's there and we know what's happening with it now and we know it can evolve at any time. Whereas like around that time it was like, shit, what's going on? Shit's changing all the time. I don't know what to do. We meant to be on MySpace. What's this Facebook thing? Like, yeah. That was the Ashai times.
So, okay, well, when did you guys become Decades, and what sort of brought that about?
We became Decades 2 and a bit years ago. So what brought that about was we'd released the Ashai EP, which was called Music is Boring, because we thought we were hilarious. So we released that and we did our own little independent tour. It was just Auckland, Wellington, Christchurch. And then after that, we didn't really know what we were meant to do next. Like, how do you continue momentum? We've just spent all of our money. I've kind of run out of ideas of what to do with the band and like the internet. I've done everything that I've found to do on Google and I don't know how to scale it. And it was just like serendipitous that I bumped into like Tom Larkin at a Biffy Clyro show in Melbourne. I'd emailed him like a couple months beforehand when we were touring. Oh, because we actually did tour the EP. We toured the EP in Australia, and by touring in Australia I mean we did like Melbourne and Sydney, and that was it.
Yep.
So I think I'd reached out to anyone who would like read my emails in Australia, and he was one of them. And he was going to come to our Melbourne show, but he didn't. But yeah, a couple months later I was over there like seeing Biffy Clyro, and he was at the Melbourne show. And as I was leaving, he just like grabbed my arm and was like, "You're Emma Cameron," and I was like, "Yep." And I was like, "Who are you?" And he's like, "I'm Tom Larkin. You emailed me a couple months ago." I didn't know. I never listened to I've listened to She Hard growing up, like on the radio, but I don't know what their names are or what they look like.
Yeah. I'm
so not a band fangirl like that. Like I don't ever really know what bands I like look like. It's hard not to with the internet these days. But when I was younger, I didn't. Anyway, he was like, do you want to come grab a beer? I'm sorry I didn't come to your show, but I'm interested in like seeing where you guys are at and stuff. And so it was it was like serendipitous timing really, because I'd been actually like kind of depressed and stuff because I didn't really know what to do next, and like music and the band is like essentially my main goal and passion and drive in life, and I didn't know what I was meant to do with it. And then basically a Tom Larkin fell in my lap and said that he wanted to work with us and he knows where to take it next, and I was like, let's do it. So that was really lucky. He wanted to work with us on an album, and so we started doing that. I convinced the guys that it was a good thing to do because we didn't have any other ideas. So we just started writing heaps and heaps of songs at Tom's encouragement. We were like, yeah, let's do an album. So what, we have to write like 10 songs? That's cool. And Tom was like, nah, I want you to write like 100 songs. And we were like, what? What the fuck? So we started doing that. And it was like 6 months of writing when we'd finally got like 120 songs together. And that's when we decided we were ready to go and record this album. And so when we went over to Melbourne, to record the album, that's when we changed our name to Decades, because our sound had changed so much, and we'd done a couple pre-production weeks before then. And yeah, what we were doing to the songs was very un-Ash-I-like, probably mostly at Tom's direction and production, because he was trying to get us away from that because of the whole Paramore thing, and we're kind of sitting weirdly in a can't get played on pop radio, can't get played on rock radio kind of place. So we knew we wanted to get heavier, so he just pushed us in that direction basically. And so that's why we changed our name.
And so you did pre-production with Tom?
Yeah, we did 2 different sessions. We flew him over for like a week at a time. One was in like January of 2016 or 15. And then the other one was like a couple months after that, in like the April of whatever year it was. It must have been 2015, yeah. Yeah, brought him over for some pre-pro.
And so what did that scenario look like? Like, you guys get in the same room, start to play him some songs as a band, or on guitars, or? Yeah,
basically, like, I'll just work to the first session we had. So at that point, we probably had like 50 songs between me and Liam. And so Tom flew over. We hired like a little studio space here in Christchurch, Cleavetown Studios, and for the whole week. And we all took a week off work. And just Tom would set up his little recording desk and stuff, because we were going to record everything we did. And because we'd all listened to the song ideas for the months prior and stuff, we knew how a lot of them went. The very first thing we did was just sit down all together and play each of them through someone's laptop, and we each rated each song out of 5. And like Tom was like, you have to be brutal on this. Like, if you don't like that song Liam wrote, don't be afraid of hurting his feelings. Give it a 1. Like, who cares? This is like the process of where we're going to find what everyone's digging and what everyone's not digging. And hopefully there's a collective dig somewhere, essentially. So we did that. That was probably most of the first day that took. And that gave us like a crop of like, I don't know, maybe 10 songs that scored above like 3.5 on average or something like that. Our drummer actually wasn't there that time, so Tom was drumming for us, which was pretty exciting.
Yeah, cool.
When he first hit the drums, we were like, whoa, what the hell? And then after we decided what songs to work on, we just went through them one by one and basically workshopped them out as a band. And it was a very live process. Like, we'd kind of just listen to Liam's demo a couple times and then just hit record, and we'd all just play whatever, like, that we knew. Tom would be, like, making up whatever he wanted to do on the drums. And he was actually quite driving in that process, because if he decided that actually there needed to be, like, a pre-chorus here when in the original song that went straight to a chorus, he'd just start drumming a different bit, and we'd be like, whoa, we have to do that bit now, and just come up with something.
Yeah.
Like, full jamming them out like that, then listening back, and then being like, right, those bits are working, and then just keep refining them.
Yeah.
It was a really intense process. It's pretty full on for us, because we'd never done anything like that before. So it was actually kind of terrifying. But by the time the second pre-production came around, we kind of knew what to expect. But then, of course, our drummer Dan was back for that one, so then he got pretty much a punch in the face, and we were all like, what's wrong? This is how we do it now. But yeah, the second time we probably ended up having another 10 songs come out of that we liked. And yeah, then when we went to Melbourne for 5 weeks to record the album. That was in like July of 2015, June, July. And we did it was meant to be the first week was just pre-production, but we ended up doing pre-production for like 2.5 weeks, because Liam like couldn't turn off the songwriting tap, and he kept writing like even better songs that we're like, no, we got to explore that song as well, that might be better than the one we did in January or whatever. So it ended up giving like Dan got 2 days to record an entire album's worth of drum tracks.
Wow.
He had to record 10. Oh no, I think we actually we only recorded 10 songs. He had to do them in 2 days, because we ended up doing pre-production for so long. Whereas the original plan was 1 week of pre-production, 1 week of drums, 1 week of bass.
Yeah.
But it was 2.5 weeks of pre-production, couple days of drums, and Curtis just like live tracked the bass with the drums. Yeah. And we don't know how much of Curtis's live bass tracks made the album versus how many were potentially filled in by one of our like co-producers, Sam, or I don't know if they hired someone else, but I'm pretty sure most of the bass tracks on the album are Curtis's live takes, because we were pretty tight by that stage. We'd played every song like 100 times. So yeah, that was the process.
Okay, well let's go back a bit to Tom. And you said that, you know, you were leaving this gig, this Biffy Clyro gig, and he sort of grabbed you by the arm and said, hey, and that it was a stroke of luck. And that is super lucky. And I always think that, you know, there's a lot of things that go into kind of finding a successful path in music, and luck is a massive factor of it.
It's the biggest.
Yeah, but the fact is that Tom knew who you were because you'd been putting yourself out there, putting yourself in his line of sight. If he wouldn't have just grabbed you out of nowhere and gone, hey, do you want to think about maybe, you know,
hey, you look cool, do you play guitar?
You know, that would have been lucky. But so what did you do to get his attention in the first place?
Well, because we were going over to Australia to play a couple shows, I just Googled like every single like management, independent label, PR, music blogs, that I could find in Melbourne and Sydney. I mean, we actually had like a PR person over there that we'd hired to help us promote the shows. So they were kind of doing the actual promotion of the EP and the shows, but I just wanted to like see if anyone else was keen to come like check us out or meet with me while we were there. And he was just one of them. Like when I Googled management, like music management or rock music management Australia or Melbourne or whatever the search term would have been, what was this company called at the time? Home Surgery was one that came up, and I would have just gone through the contact form and been like, hey, I'm in this band, we're playing this show. Would you be interested in coming down and checking it out, looking to get into the Australian market a bit more, or we don't really know what we're doing, but we're just dipping our toes in the water kind of thing. And yeah, he ended up replying, just being like, yeah, I've heard of you guys. I've got a couple other shows to go see that night, but I do want to come down and check you guys out, so I'll probably see you there. And then I just never heard, he didn't come, and I never heard from him again. Until we bumped into each other at that Biffy Clyro show. Yeah.
And then so from then, obviously, you know, you started working together. In what capacity at first, and then when did it become like a more official capacity that you're working with him?
Pretty much from the get-go, it was like we engaged him as our producer, I guess, and like it was probably within a few weeks after he'd like met the other guys on Skype and stuff, and we'd talked more about, or he got to know more about what we want to do and where we see our band going and stuff, that he's ended up sending through like a proposal, I guess, of like management consultancy. So we'd still be a self-managed act, and he wouldn't be taking a commission or anything like that, but we would be paying him a monthly fee, but not until after that, like the album was done, and we started to actually get into the management of the artists, where we're pushing decades onto people and trying to get record deals and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, we're working with them pretty closely. I think we would have been like Skyping or texting or on the phone, like probably even in that very, very early stage, like weekly. Yep. It was pretty serious from the get-go. Yeah.
Awesome. Is he your manager? He's the band manager?
Yeah, but still in the same capacity where like I self-manage a lot of stuff and I'm doing a lot of the admin and everything. He's our I guess like our management representative. Like he's the one that goes out and represents us to all our external people. But in terms of actual day-to-day management, I'm doing most of that. And
would you say that he's kind of acted as a type of mentor as well?
Absolutely, because it's kind of like it's artist development as well, really. Like his whole buzz is artist development, production and management. He thinks that you got to kind of have the three working in a synergy. Obviously production can be exchanged with another producer anytime, but those are the three kind of services he offers. So and a huge mentor, especially to me personally, because I'm kind of the one that's got the most contact with him out of all of the guys. So yeah, a lot of personal growth in the last couple of years working with Tom.
Yeah. Awesome. Okay, so you recorded your record. You recorded your album, rather.
Yes.
What can you kind of talk us through the process sort of after you'd done the tracking? What sort of happened?
Basically after done the tracking, nothing happened. It was like the most frustrating year of our lives, just waiting. We released our first single off that album, which was called Terrified. We had tried to shoot a video for it that didn't work out, so we never got to release a video for it. We never actually officially released the track, even though The Rock picked it up, and it was probably actually still arguably our most successful song to date, but we never actually officially released it because we're just still independent. But that was around the time that Tom started, taking us to labels, or presenting the unfinished album to labels and trying to get some interest and stuff like that. And so as I think, yeah, so Terrified came out February 2016, and then we went on tour with Villainy, which was around February, March. Maybe it was March, April. And that's when we were on that tour, that's when we got the email saying, yep, Warner have offered you a deal, here it is attached, read it through. And then, so from then, that was April, and we didn't actually sign the contract until August. That's how long the process of legal crap that was. And so we couldn't do anything in that time. We couldn't release any music because all of a sudden, we're giving it to Warner or licensing it to Warner, so it's actually, and it would be stupid for us to release anything because they're the ones that actually would have a plan for it and stuff.
Yeah.
And then even after we signed that in August, it wasn't till I think it was the end of October that we released the next song off the album. So yeah, finishing tracking the album up until actually feeling like we are starting to potentially get towards releasing the album was a year and a half of pure frustration. I think we didn't even have a release date until early this year, and the album came out this year.
Is it a single album deal? Is it a multiple album deal? What's the deal?
It is it's just for this. It's licensed. It's a licensing deal. So they've licensed this album off us, and with the first dibs on the next two, I think. But we obviously can go elsewhere if they decide they're not really sure. We can kind of shop around and stuff like that. But we love Warner, so we hope that they want our next album. So
yeah,
we'll see how we go. Yeah,
but you've still got the full power and authority of a major label. Trying to put your record out there, trying to make money. So okay, well, I mean that must have been amazing. What kind of happened after that? We're caught up to scratch, aren't we? Your record's out. It's doing really well. Yeah. Now what? I'm back in that depression hole. What the hell are we meant to do next? No, just kidding. Well, we just released a song. Well, we released a song a few months ago, but we released a video for it today because that's been our first song that Spotify have picked up and gotten behind and put on playlists and stuff like that. So we decided we should shoot a video for that. So that came out today, and then we've still got one more single release in the pipeline from this album. And then, so I'm hoping that that's not until early next year, although I don't know what Warner's plans are for it, but I kind of want to milk it out a little bit longer so we have more time to write and record this second album that apparently is, a challenge. That's the meme, isn't it, with musicians? The second album's always meant to be harder, but I don't know if it will be. I think Liam's writing some pretty awesome songs that I really like, but I don't know. Tom always has different opinions on what we like versus what he likes and because he's very focused on what he thinks will work at radio and if it's going to fit the New Zealand market or whether it's going to be music that's going to fit an overseas market and stuff. Whereas we kind of just like what we like. What intentional composition. So, I mean, you guys, where do you see yourselves fitting? And are you writing specifically to fit into that market, or are you kind of going, I just want to write what I want to write, or is that this one and the same?
I think for us it's like a huge grey area, because like with the first album, me and Liam were both writing, but I mean it's like Liam is a way better writer than me. Like Liam is a natural writer, and he's always written songs of like any style and whatever since he was very young. So for the first album, I just wanted to give it a go, basically, and we were trying to just write rock music, like more riff-based rock music kind of thing. So Ashai was a lot more like chord-based. These days, and for the second album, I'm not really doing anything because I know that it was like squeezing blood from a stone, me trying to write songs for the first album, and I had a couple like little successes, but I didn't enjoy it. I don't like writing. I like it when Liam comes to us with a song and I help develop that with him and maybe add lyrics to it and add parts to it. I guess like for more of a production role.
Sure.
But to say whether we write for the market or whether we write what we like, I do think it's just a huge grey area. I think these days we just focus on songs. Liam just writes songs and he sends them through now just as literally his voice and an acoustic guitar, and it's usually a single string, like kind of bass line style riff. Because we don't want to put any preconceptions on what the finished song should actually sound like, because we kind of developed a bit of a sound with our first album of like kind of single string stuff and riffs and fuzz pedals and all that kind of stuff, and so we want to kind of move that forward, but we still want to develop it, so we don't want to like pigeonhole the songs that are being written into that style really, but we want to use the style of the first album as a launch pad to start developing these songs as a band. So I think the process of actually, like the pre-production process is going to be really different for us this time around, because we're probably not going to have Tom involved because we kind of know what we need to do for pre-production now. We get the process. And because we're going to be starting with songs that are just acoustic ideas, it gives everyone in the band a lot more weight to throw around with what kind of style and parts they write for themselves. Because first album, Liam would often he would write the lead line and the rhythm line with guitars, and he'd write the bass line, and he'd put effects on them, and he'd do it like a MIDI drum beat that he wanted, and so a lot of it was preconceived. And like I know that Tom is able to like pull away from those kind of preconceived ideas, but I still feel like a lot of the final songs have that like little element of Liam's original demos in them. Like you can still, if you heard the original demo and heard the final, for most of them you could make the connection and see how it went from there to there. Whereas I think with this one, it's going to be like, here's some acoustic songs. What the fuck are we going to do with them? Well, we've got this kind of the style map of album one to work from, but with just like total stab in the dark. And obviously Tom will be, when we get to production, Tom will be kind of like pushing us subconsciously to where he thinks the songs will connect with the most people, sound-wise, and also with what radio stations nationally and internationally might dig them. But it's still, his main thing is, do you like it? You still got to like what you're doing, you know. And I think because all of our influences and our personal favorite bands or artists and stuff are so eclectic and mixed genre-wise, we usually like anything that we make, no matter what the style is. Like I feel like we could write a hip hop song and we'd still be like, fuck yeah, that's great, like we love it, you know. Yeah. We just like music, but it just happens to be that we decided to do rock music kind of thing because we all grew up playing guitars and stuff, so it's kind of a no-brainer. And it's the most exciting version of music with guitars, I reckon.
I want to get a better idea of what led Warner to notice you, and I want to know if it's, you know, if it was one thing in particular, or whether it's a combination of things, whether it was because you stuck at it, you know, for such a long time. What do you think?
I mean, I should actually just ask them. But it is a combination of things. So when I was just managing Ashai on my own, like I guarantee I would have like tried to get in touch with labels and been like, do you want to check out my demo and all that kind of stuff, and of course they never replied, and I was like, oh, labels don't like me. So I think it wasn't that our music was bad or that we weren't working hard enough on our own. It was just, yeah, you don't have the profile and you don't have that weight behind you, or like the authority or people to vouch for you. You know, like if we'd had like some radio, if I'd gotten us some mainstream radio play like on the Rock or Hodaki or something, when I was managing us, even then, like, you know, Warner could go to the head people at Hodaki and the Rock and be like, hey, this actually, you know, they've gotten play on your radio station. Have you met them? What do you think? Like, where do you think they're going? You know, we didn't even have any of that authority. It was just 4 people from Christchurch basically being like, we take this seriously, I promise.
Yeah.
So I think, yeah, it was a combination of things. The biggest thing is the Tom Larkin factor.
Yeah.
Of having someone who is successful in the rock music industry in New Zealand and who has done the whole record label and international thing, all of a sudden representing us and being like, I dig this band, what do you think? Also, because when he did start pitching us, we'd done our album. It wasn't like fully mixed or anything, but he had like preview mixes so he could show them what the song sounded like, so they kind of knew what they might be getting themselves into in terms of what the release could look like. And it is like, yeah, and the authority of, well, I'm presenting you this band, and also they've been a band for 10 years and they take it really fucking seriously and they are showing no signs of like quitting or giving up, and it's kind of like, if we give them the head start or the kickstart that they need, or the support that they need, they won't like take advantage of that, and they won't take it for granted. Like, they will work really hard and they'll continue to. I did find out like a few months ago when I was in Auckland, so I went up and visited the team at Warner. It must have been when we started our tour, that one of the guys there, like, he was in the meeting when Tom presented the band, and he like liked us straight away, and he kind of championed us and kept like reminding the rest of the team like, oh, what about this, you know, Ashai / Decades band,
yeah,
kind of thing. I remember one of the other guys after our Auckland gig actually telling me that he was like, yeah, he was just like, you've got this guy to thank. He championed you from the start. You know, the day Tom brought you in, he was like, I think this band's going to be like one of the new cool like rock bands in New Zealand. I think we should give them a shot and all that kind of stuff. So it is a combination of stuff, but
yeah.
None of that would have helped if we hadn't had a Tom, really. So
Yeah.
as someone with authority to present us in the first place.
So, I mean, when Tom comes in and presents you, they go, oh, okay, well, you know, that's a good recommendation. Let's have a look at what they do and what they've done.
Yeah, let's listen to it. Let's look into them. Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, yeah, they are good songwriters. They have been doing this. They have been releasing their own material.
Oh, look,
their songs are cool.
They've got a bit of a fan base and they've done a tour.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, they know what's involved. They're not like newbies kind of thing.
Okay, well, so what do they do for you? Now that you're got this record on a major, what exactly do they do?
Well, a lot of it I don't see because they're communicating with Tom on behalf of me most of the time, but it was cool doing the album because I'm a graphic designer and I do social media marketing with my partner. So I ended up doing a lot of like what they would contract to someone else to do, all the like digital marketing stuff. I got involved in that and did it to basically save everyone money. Because I'm nice like that. But yeah, they put together like the release plans, marketing plans. They did help us fund some of our New Zealand On Air funded music videos before New Zealand On Air changed their scheme that you don't have to do a deposit anymore. They gave us a bit of cash towards the album that we obviously have to pay back. And they do all our like PR, so they, you know, reach out to, they service us at radio, they service us to Spotify, they service us to iTunes to try and, you know, when we have a release, try and get on the homepage of iTunes or the homepage of Spotify, or get on that Spotify playlist, get picked up by the Rock or Hodaki. And when it came to album release time, you know, they got us lots of like interviews and like television, radio, magazines, blogs, newspaper, and they also put us into an acoustic recording session at Roundhead Studios, which was awesome. We got to record 5 of the songs acoustically, which I think are going to start being released next week, I think. So yeah, and I'm sure like heaps of stuff that I don't even know what they're doing, but they're just doing it behind the scenes, much like Tom. Yeah. I'm like, what is that Tom guy doing this week for us? I don't know. And then, you know, I'll pester him about it, and then I'll get a phone call like, well, I've actually done all this stuff. I'm like, okay, cool. So you did do stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
From here, what's the kind of aim for the future?
Well, definitely focus on album number 2 now and getting like good songs for that. We've got, I think Liam's got like 30 songs so far. Some of them are pretty cool. Some of them I don't like at all, but that's our main focus. Like I said, we've got another single coming out in the next few months or whatever, but that's kind of just to tie us over. We want to play a lot more shows. We want to get a lot more support act slots next year, and try and do more tours. Like we only did we did 1 of our own tours this year. I think we'd like to try and do 2 next year. Just basically more of the same, but scaling it up and doing it bigger and better and learning more. And yeah.
Awesome.
Doesn't sound that exciting, does it? I feel like I should be like, oh yeah, and then we're going to go like do an international deal and tour, and like we're going to be like touring with Lady Gaga or something. But just you know, we've always like we don't want like 15 minutes of fame or anything like that, and like, you know, you have your career where you have your one-hit wonder and then you taper off. Like, we'd rather play the long game and be career musicians and still be decades releasing our 10th album when we're like 50 kind of thing. Like, just slowly do it over time. So yeah. Just more of the same but better every day.
And that's the podcast for this week. Thank you so much to my guest Emma Cameron. Check out her band Decades at wearedecades.com and facebook.com/decadesx. Their album, The Truth and Other People, is out now. You'll find a Spotify link to the album in the podcast description. Emma's choice for this week's Artist of the Week is Brisbane band Waax. That's WAAX. Check them out at waax.band and facebook.com/waaxband. This podcast and my site musiciansmap.org is dedicated to sharing knowledge and advice about music and the music industry. It's all about honesty and positive progress. My experience and the experience and advice of my guests is yours to learn from. There are no hidden meanings, ambiguous statements, or industry secrets, just people helping each other to be better and to achieve results. Much of my experience, advice, and information is condensed into both ebook and audiobook form, both of which are available on the website, as well as Amazon and Audible, respectively. In the book, I discuss every aspect of learning music, from listening and learning an instrument, to recording, gigging, touring, and making money as a musician. You can get a free sample of both the ebook and the audiobook on the Musicians Map website. I've also got a brand new free ebook, How to Get Your Music Heard. Go to musiciansmap.org/free-book to get your copy. If you have a suggestion for the podcast or for the YouTube channel, or you just want some advice, get in touch via the Musicians Map Facebook group or by email at kane@musiciansmap.org. I always respond. Thanks for listening and stay positive.